They've got a neck on the floor. He's got his hand on her neck.
He's straight out of Wales with the wind in his sails. He's tipping the scales, Silurian trails, revealing their names while he's lifting their veils. Public assails, no one exhales. Won't read in the mail, it's not printed in braille. No bonus for sales, the light will prevail. He's telling the tale while he's hot on the trail. Whole nother scale, he's hammering the nail. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dark as the night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
Press, don't even pick on me. Are you watching this? The press aren't allowed to film.
Justice is served, collar crime is submerged. Don't be absurd, your vision is blurred. He's seen it occur, still right there on the curb. His iPhone record, he's filming the herd. BLM thugs act like cons high on drugs. They wrecking the place, they're smashing the face. He's in with the thick, in with hammers and sticks. Exposing the truth, he's showing the proof. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dark as the night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
Just don't want to see it there. You just don't want to see the violence. You don't want to see the violence on some of those people. 3 people on a woman.
Support for the vets, pray unless we forget the pain he besets and the truth he projects. He's a victim of threats, but he never regrets. Live stream the upsets, no printing gazettes. He's taken the test, got the pedo's address. No south, east or west, he streams the protest. No news is suppressed, the whole truth is expressed. To insanity test, he's facing arrest. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dark as the night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
There's 4, 5 on 1. There's 2 on a girl. They pinned her to the floor. This one's getting a bully boy tactics. That's from the TSG probably. Sergeant, yeah.
Good evening all. There you go. I don't want to blind you. Better put that back on, folks. Good evening. Welcome to Real News Live News. We've got 3 guests on tonight, folks. It's regarding the by-election in Wakefield, where a politician actually sexually assaulted a 15-year-old boy. So the by-election was called. He's been sent to prison, folks. So there's another one in Tiverton as well. That was to do with sexual images on a computer. He actually was found guilty, and I think he's been sent to prison as well, folks. So what I've actually got tonight is I've got 2 candidates from the by-election. One is Freedom Alliance. His name is Mick, and I've got Jordan Gaskell coming on. I've also got Kimberley Isherwood. She's coming from standing in a council election down in Talbot. So she'll be jumping on somewhere along the show as well, folks. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to bring on everybody except for Kim because she's late as usual. Evening both. Evening Mick. Evening Jordan. How are you doing, folks?
All good.
Hey everyone.
How are you doing?
All good, thanks.
So you're looking forward to this by-election?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's just quite a shame, obviously, what's led to the situation. I think it's quite despicable on the Conservative MP's place, of course, of what he did in order for this election to have to happen.
Yeah. Folks, if you could all please start sharing. If you two see my head go down, if I ask a question, my head goes down like that, it's just basically I'm sharing it myself. So don't worry about that. I'm not ignoring you. I am listening to what you're saying. Right. First of all, Mick, can you tell me a little bit about the Freedom Alliance and how it started?
Yes, of course. Well, a couple of years ago, when we first found out about the old COVID pandemic and the disproportionate measures that were brought in, and the quite confusing measures that were brought in, a few of us got together in Wakefield, and we sat around and had a meeting in a pub, just a random group. And out of that meeting, a few of us decided to take it a little bit further and met again and decided the best way to tackle this was to form a political party and challenge it from within the system.
And yourself, Jordan, same question?
Of course, I'm part of UKIP instead, different party, the United Kingdom Independence Party. We're mainly known for Brexit, of course, but we'll have a list of policies, of course, outside of those still that we do wish to integrate upon the country, mainly prioritising personal freedoms, low taxes and controlled immigration. Some of the main policies, of course, that we're known for right there. So obviously with the election coming up, I have put my hat in the ring and hoping to do what's best for the people of Wakefield this election.
Yeah, nice one, Jordan. All right then. What would you consider your most important policy within your parties? I'll go back with Jordan with this one.
Oh, we're starting with me. Well, I think one of the most important ones with this would be addressing the cost of living crisis. What UKIP proposes with this is scrapping the net zero emissions policies. They do add up to at least a good 20 to 30% of all our energy bills as a result of the net zero emissions policies, which if we do scrap them, of course, it can lower everybody's energy bills in the process. People are struggling enough. The last thing they need is more taxes. So fighting more unnecessary tax burdens, just like the TV licenses, prescription charges, unnecessary taxes on an already struggling working class. The clean air zones being pushed all across the country as well. Basically, we will be fighting against the constant increase in more taxes on an already struggling working class, where the main ones, of course, being the scrapping of net zero emissions policies.
And yourself, what would you consider the most important policy that you're going to the polls with, Mick?
Well, as Jordan rightly says, the hobbled economy is something that's on everyone's mind, and I'm inclined to agree with him. I think we've got to look at ways of reducing the taxes rather than increasing them, because lower taxes frees up more money, which actually generates growth. I think we're looking at going down that route, and also introducing taxes that give the independent and the small businesses more scope. You know, like the delivery taxes, packaging taxes, trying to get people back on the high street and encourage growth in that way. And we're also very concerned about body autonomy is a big issue for us. Giving people the right to choose, and we're looking at the current World Health Organization pandemic treaty and what impact that may have on our sovereign nation making decisions on our own soil.
The next question, I've had this sent to me earlier on by a friend, and it's regarding what are your thoughts on the immigration crisis that we have in the UK at present? And that'll go back to Mick first.
Okay. Well, that's again, that's something that everybody's talking about, and immigration is necessary in this country at the moment. I mean, I work in the building industry, and I work with lots of East Europeans from Moldova, Romania, Poland. I work with Punjabis, and they're all skilled people, and they're all filling a skills gap. That said, I don't think we can just have an open door policy. That we clearly can't sustain that. But again, you know, we're talking about a food crisis at the moment, and what happened? We had thousands and thousands of workers coming over from the EU, supporting the farming industry, working hard in the fields, getting the crops in, and they're gone. now the farmers can't get their hands. So is there a link there between that and the current food shortages and forecasted problems we're going to have there?
What about the illegal immigration that they're coming over on boats from Dover without their passports, and it's just mainly 95% are mainly men. What are your views on that, then, Mick?
Well,
don't worry, I'm just sharing it.
That's all right. Well, say illegal immigration or asylum seekers. First, you've got to establish who is who. You know, some of these people are genuinely coming from war-torn countries. Some of them, sadly, are not, and they're taking advantage of the situation. They're taking advantage of the unfortunate situation that others find themselves in. I do accept that, and I do see that that's going on. Quite how you're going to deal with that, I don't know. It certainly isn't going to be by sending people to Rwanda.
Nobody's going to Rwanda. Don't believe that. Don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, well, it was tongue in cheek.
Same question to Jordan then, regarding.
I'll start off with legal immigration. In terms of legal immigration, we are for immigration in UKIP, but we believe in a sensible cap on immigration, say 10,000 a year maximum. We do need a sensible cap. It's statistically proven the amount of people coming in compared to the actual birth rates in the UK is quite a large gap between. When you have too many people coming in at once, it causes issues with food shortages, housing crises. The list goes on. You need to have the infrastructure in place in order to support the people we have coming in. And with the food crisis, a bit of a difference in opinion to the gentleman. Sorry, I forgot your name again, buddy. What's your name again? Freedom Alliance. Mick. That's it. I knew it was Mick or Mark. It was one of the two. Differences, of course. I know you talked about some of the people that came here to work, but at the same time, a lot of the fishing industry, I'd argue, was sold out under Boris's Brexit deal. There is still a lot of people fishing within our waters, which Boris effectively sold out. I'd argue the fishing industry, we do stand by, was sold out, especially in places such as Fleetwood and Newcastle. In terms of illegal immigration, yes, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. There is a very big difference between illegal immigration and asylum seeking. Asylum seekers, a lot of people want us to take more and more in, a lot of parties such as Labour and the Liberal Democrats. And the problem is, rules of asylum seeking, you're supposed to seek refuge in the first safe country you go from. Well, let's use Syria as an example, because that country is an absolute nightmare. No offence to any Syrians, but your country is a bit broken. I'm being polite as I can there. From Syria to get to the UK, you would need to go through Turkey, followed by Turkey to Greece, Greece to Serbia, Serbia to Bosnia and Herzegovina, to then then Croatia, then Slovenia, then Austria, then Germany, then to France to cross the English Channel. Now, every single country I've just named after Syria is a safe country, arguably. This is a problem. When people say they are seeking asylum here, how many safe countries have you already gone through to get here? That's where people do exploit the system, and they go with it. They effectively come here because it's a higher quality of life. And to an extent, you can't blame them. It's not strictly just their faults, because who wouldn't want a higher quality of life, of course? But the fact comes back to where we was before. We don't have the infrastructure to help everybody. It's not that we don't want to help people. It's that we can't help every single person that goes over the water in a rubber dinghy. Not trying to sound harsh, but trying to be as honest as I possibly can.
No, I understand that, Jordan. I just wondered if you're aware of our historic relationship with the Kurds and what they've done for us in the past and in the recent past.
The
You know,
Kurds are a bit of a
people
different situation though, because the Kurds, obviously not all Syrians are Kurds, but there is a good amount of Kurds within the northern territories of Syria. I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken, it's northwest Syria. If my memory serves me correct, like obviously Kurdistan splits between Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and a bit of Syria even. It splits mostly around that area. The historic relations with Kurdistan I'm not as familiar with as I'd like to be, but the problem that brings the big question of who we do and don't want actually in the nation, linking similar to the situation with Hong Kong, for example, when we gave visas to them. Some people were for that, but against it from countries such as Syria. So it does get to quite a complicated one of who we do and do not let in.
All right. Well, where I was going with that, you know, some people talk about the Gurkhas and their association and fighting for us, and a lot of British people feel a strong bond with the Gurkhas and say, well, maybe we should look after them. Well, some people could argue that case for the Kurds. I mean, they fought tooth and nail for us in the First World War, and in the recent wars against ISIS. They were the only people down there with boots on the ground fighting hand to hand. They were fighting our enemies while we sat back. And a lot of people think that perhaps deserves some recognition. And another subject as well, that Ukraine, I mean, Ukrainian people would have to cross an awful lot of borders to get here. And yet all of a sudden, people are actually being offered incentives to house a Ukrainian. So how does that work with you?
Don't you think the Ukraine refugees are slightly different? I personally think it's, how can I put it? As soon as COVID ended, then we ended up with a war. So I don't think what's happening in Ukraine and with Russia is what we're actually being told. Not the truth, not fully truth. I'm afraid. I personally don't think so, because soon as you know when the media are lying to you, they'll go from one to the other. Like they went from Ukraine straight to monkeypox, and now we're back to Boris now with his blinking Partygate and everything else, and that's what we're going to hear.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was just pointing out that you can't differentiate between one refugee and another. If they must stop, if, as Jordan pointed out, that the ideal is that they should stop in the first safe country they come to. Now, if we're going to say that about, for example, Syrians, surely we should be saying that about Ukrainians too, not saying, well, tell you what, jump the queue and we'll even pay people to put you up in the back bedroom. You can't have the bun and the halfpenny there, can you?
I agree with, I do, with Ukraine, I'd say there was an improving democracy, but they were certainly not the saints that the media were trying to all of a sudden make them out to be. And as our host was very clearly stated and all, that's gone from COVID, all of a sudden COVID's just magically done a little Houdini on us and disappeared. And it's all about Ukraine now. COVID just disappeared because COVID can't infect people when there's a war on, apparently. That's how it works now. But with Ukraine, the same principles apply. I do think they were an improving democracy, and I do not support the Russian aggression. I'm not saying Ukraine are a nation of saints, of course, but I'd certainly say that overall Ukraine's is not as peaceful as a nation they've made out to be. And as much as I do want them to be safe and can allow a certain amount, as I did say, a sensible cap on some people, yes, but it's one of them where, unfortunately, you have to have a realistic system where you can only help so many of them. And it's not the narcissist, but it's facts. We can only help so many at once. And I don't agree with the idea that people are being paid to house Ukrainians. I mean, it goes to show, again, we don't have the infrastructure to keep letting people in. The government has to pay us in order to house Ukrainians. It goes to show that right there.
Yeah, I don't agree with war, full stop. I don't agree with the Ukrainians, and I don't agree with what the Russians are doing. Whatever's happening in the Ukraine doing. I know the bad bits which Ukraine have done for the last 8 years, how many people they've killed and everything else. And I also know how many the Russians have killed as well. So there's two sides to a war, and the only people who gain anything out of the war are the people who are supplying the arms. and that is it. There's no winners out of war, certainly not. But far as you mentioned Hong Kong, 3 million refugees. That is what they're gonna. Well, 3 million Hong Kongs are going to be coming over here. Do you think that's right? That we should have 3 million come over?
It's a very complicated one again. That as much as I do like the Hong Kong people, I think, and a lot of them have a lot more British spirit there at times than a lot of people we have in our own country. We just can't house 3 million Hong Kong people. Enough people already born here have spent years unable, waiting on the emergency lists for houses, even. If we don't have the facilities to help 3 million people all of a sudden to get houses. So as much as I do appreciate the patriotism of Hong Kong, we realistically just can't have 3 million people from Hong Kong coming here.
And you, Mick, what are your thoughts on that, about 3 million? And this was 3 years ago. They mentioned 3 million Hong Kong people were going to come over to Britain. They were going to give visas to.
Well, it goes without saying, it's just not feasible, is it?
No.
You can't have that kind of influx into a country, particularly over a short period of time, and not expect it's going to backfire, isn't it? Economically, socially.
You touched on something else as well, Mick. Gurkhas. At the end of the day, they fought for our country. They've been treated like shit. I've supported the Gurkhas for quite a while now, and the veterans, and they're not even getting a decent pension, a tenth of the pension that a normal person does in the armed forces when they leave. What are your thoughts on that? I personally think the Gurkhas should be allowed in this country and state, and they should have the full pensions.
I would certainly agree with a full military pension. Yeah, absolutely. If they put their life on the line like everybody else, they should be treated the same.
Yeah,
I must say again, I think this is something we all agree on, the full military pensions. I do a lot with veteran groups myself. The Royal British Legion, I did do a lot. I don't do as much as I did with them. I do a lot now with the local veterans charity, the Hindley Veterans. I did last year. A lot of people know me for I walked 22 miles in one day to raise the money for the memorial garden that's now here. That did kill my legs. It took me 7 hours of walking, but I do a lot with the veterans charities here, and I think the Gherkins, they do deserve full military pensions. They're some of the best fighters that we've ever had, and they have paid quite a heavy sacrifice for this country. Not only recently, over the years in general, First and Second World War, they have a very high reputation of fighting for us, and I have nothing but respect for them.
Yeah. We'll move on to the crisis we got in the country regarding our fuel crisis and our food crisis and our electric and gas crisis. What would you actually do if either of you got into Parliament? What difference would you actually make?
You want to take that first, John, or shall I?
I'll take it first. I don't know why I was waiting for you, though. I didn't want to seem like I keep talking over you. I know I can go on too much. If I go on, just tell me to shut up. It's okay. You get my permission. Well, for starters, of course, scrapping the net zero emissions policies wouldn't only just help the working class, it would help the companies as well. Scrapping a lot of the green taxes for a lot of energy companies will mean that they can lower their prices in the process. Even if we just scrap some of these green taxes temporarily, it might be a necessity. We're considering how bad bills have come for so many people. A lot of people now are at a point where they have to choose either food or heating. They can't even afford both. Even I became to a point where I struggled quite badly, all the way up till the 10th. Luckily, it's not long now. I'm just eating beans on toast for dinner and tea because money's tight even for me. I'm not one of these MPs that can just charge everything to their expenses. So I think scrapping a lot of the green taxes would be a big one, and bringing back some of Britain's older industries, which works magnificently and should never have been shut down. A lot of the coal industry, especially in the north was home to so much of our coal industry, which could help quite massively increasing how much energy power we can produce. Of course, provide jobs for so many people on top of that. So bringing back a lot of the coal mines, I do believe, would be a very, very efficient step.
And yourself, Mick?
Well, first and foremost, we'd be looking at common ownership of the utilities. Taking back the private ownership and allocating every citizen a share of that. So it's not held in government trust; it's actually held in public trust for the public to gain from.
Well, actually, we used to own the gas, electric, water, trains, buses, telecommunications. We used to own everything.
Yeah, that were nationalised. That's very different to common ownership.
Yeah, but we actually owned it, but the government sold it underneath our feet.
Common ownership would be an interesting idea, because direct renationalisation, I believe, would cost us an absolute fortune in order to get back under British control. But common ownership, to be fair, is I'm not fully sure what to think on that idea, to be fair. It's certainly one that could potentially work. I mean, it's a change, and we do need change, certainly.
And what about housing? Well, what are your
You want
thoughts
to
on
take this, Seb?
It needs to be affordable. It's as simple as that, doesn't it? The markets are going through the roof. When you look at the housing prices compared to the income, it's almost impossible right now for a first time buyer to get on the ladder from scratch.
But what you have, Mick, mind is people are renting houses, but they can't have the mortgage for that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And what you're looking at, they can actually afford the mortgage because they're paying the same amount in rent. But what you've got is these builder societies and banks aren't willing to give them a mortgage because they're not earning as much as they'd like them to be earning. But they're earning enough to pay the rent.
Well, the reality of that is you're paying somebody else's mortgage and giving them a little bump on top, aren't you, when you're renting? You know, so you can more than justify saying you can pay the mortgage. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. And yourself?
Well, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head, though. I mean, I'm actually in the same situation. I'm back in a different job now because of COVID restrictions on and off. I ended up being redundant from December up until April. So I only got a new job in April. It's only 0-hour contract. I'm lucky to get 16 to 20 hours a month now. But back when I was working properly, on a 5 days a week rota, as a manager role as well, I was still classed as not enough to actually afford a mortgage, because the problem is as well, you need to have a certain amount in savings at the time that they want you to have, with my experience with mortgages. So I'm stuck renting this place. This is £595 a month, which is quite a lot of money, and of course does make my landlord quite a lot of money. Because a lot of houses you'll find that are rented as well, when they said they've done it up or fixed things, there's a crack there, let's paint over it, stick a plank over that, no one will notice that all. It's pretty much what I've noticed with this house. But you've just got to make do with what they can, people, these days. I know someone on an emergency list that was waiting months, and that's with someone with 2 kids at the time. It was waiting months before they got a house. One alternative that could fix it to an extent is the idea of doing more with council houses. What happened in the 1980s under Thatcher? Yes, controversial. She's done some good, some bad. She was all over Thatcher, I'd say. But one thing she did quite badly, I said, was the housing. She knocked a lot of housing off to try and prioritise mortgages, which caused houses to eventually, over time, they went up and up more and more. There's more houses, what people want. And by this point, though, there's such a lack of houses, the houses can go up more and more. People just grab renting because it's all they can do. I one day want to get a mortgage, but with the prices of houses these days, it's more or less impossible. One thing that'd probably be slightly off topic, slightly linked, so at the same time, that's probably worth touching upon is where I mentioned savings. You need a certain amount of savings normally the banks want you to have already towards the mortgage in case you lose a job or whatever, you can still pay for a while. And the problem is with that, if you have help by Universal Credit, let's say, or anywhere like that, a lot of the services that are supposed to help people, they end up in situations where if you have over, I think it's £5,000 or £6,000 more than that in the bank, your UC stops, which you can understand to an extent, but trying to make money to actually even pay a mortgage now isn't worth doing. It's not worth even working for a lot of people. I mean, I'll put it in my perspective for Universal. I work about 16 to 20 hours a month on a 0-hour contract doing security. I get 55% of whatever I make gets reduced from my UC, so I'm effectively getting 45% of my wage there. Then I have to pay council tax on that, the transport fees that have gone up even more now in my area, and the amount that you actually manage to get brung home by this point, it's impossible to actually save any money towards a mortgage to begin with. So the caps in terms of saving need changing absolutely massively, and more council housing I do think would be a good way to stop the idea of banks, etc., from being quite stingy effectively with mortgages. Thank you, Pat. Just saw the comment.
And yeah, don't worry, you got John Lawrence in your corner, Mick. Let's see if I can find it. There you go.
Oh, I've seen
it. Big fan of Freedom Alliance.
John, you've had me on the show a few times, was my mention. I'm waiting.
But before Mick answers that question, could anybody that wants to ask a question, could you please put it in the comments, and I'll put the questions to both candidates which are standing for the Wakefield by-election. So carry on, Mick.
Sorry, were we still on that? Still on the housing?
Yeah, we're on about affordable housing.
Yeah, affordable housing. Well, we've just been squeezed out, aren't we? As Jordan says. I think
we've said quite a lot on what there is to say, really, on the housing thing.
Yeah, but that actually links to the immigration and everything else, because we've so many people coming into this country. What was it, 30,000 just on the dinghies last year? That's without immigration coming from everywhere else. So the housing is a knock-on effect, because lots of people can't get affordable housing through councils now or housing associations, because we've got a high influx of people coming into the country. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I don't think as an illegal immigrant.
Not an illegal a refugee, because they've still got to be housed. A legal refugee will go into. There was 30,000 beds last week that Boris Johnson had to pay for 30,000 immigrants who've come into the country. Right. So I'm talking about houses with proper refugees after they've already gone through the system, that they're legal to be in this country.
Right. Okay. I'm glad we've established that. Yeah, I'm going to say, because illegals can't just go out and get an house, can they?
No, they can't.
Means they can't. To support that. Yeah, affordable housing. Like Jordan said, the biggest stumbling block there is the deposit. How people are supposed to
grants it you though, because you're not allowed to save over a certain amount without having that taken off you effectively. Another big problem I think we should have, sorry to interrupt you a bit there by the way, but I think one of the big problems we have is the interest rate in this country doesn't help. There's no point me putting money actually in savings half the time. Even if I get an ISA account, the amount of interest that you actually get doesn't make it worth doing. So what I actually use, for example, I buy a thing called premium bonds, which I'd say is a little loophole way around it, because it's untaxable and you enter like a raffle with it and you can withdraw them at any point, because you've got a better chance of winning a little lottery with the premium bonds than you do actually getting money with the interest rates. I mean, I have about 500 every month in my rent bank account, and you know how much interest I get for that 500 quid I have? Have a guess.
No idea, Jordan.
2 pence. Now, so you think about it, at the end of a year, I'd probably have made about 20p if I'm lucky.
That's ridiculous.
It's not worth. Interest rates aren't worth a penny in this country, and I'd argue that is a massive category to think of, a massive impact upon the situation.
Oh, crackers! All right, I want to go on to education. And just a pity Kim's not here. She must have got caught up with something. Education. What are your thoughts on this new sex education? Which, well, you've had it for 2 years, but you've got an opt-out. Wales have got it coming in September, and we haven't got an opt-out. And Scotland, they've actually had it for a few years. They're kind of a little bit ahead of you already. What are your thoughts on the new sex education?
I think it's diabolical. To the point of, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost grooming. Why would children below the age of puberty even need to know any of the stuff that's been taught?
Well, I'll tell you what they've been taught from the ages of 3 upwards to 4. We're talking about masturbation, stroking themselves, how it's okay to touch themselves. From the ages of 4 to 5, you're talking about gender. A child, an infant of 4 to 5 can choose their gender. And at the end of the day, the parent has no right over that. If that child wants to be a girl and they're a boy, they can be a girl. If they're a boy and they want to be a girl, they can be a girl. And it's nothing a parent has no rights at all to stop it happening.
I'm fully aware of what the agenda contains. I'm saying I can't understand why any child of that age would even need to concern themselves with it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not homophobic, I'm not transphobic, I'm very, very much live and let live. But let children be children. And when they approach that age where they're aware of their own sexuality and the sexuality of other people around them, that's the time to approach the subject. Not when they're barely out of nappies.
Yeah, appropriate times to do it, not inappropriate times. That's the difference. This is what the governments are actually doing by pushing the education. Because at the end of the day, governments which have authorised this, they've pushed this on the teachers. Some teachers don't want to teach it, some do. Obviously, the ones who want to teach it, there's been a lot of abuse in schools. You've got to remember that also. There's hell of a lot of abuse that goes on in schools, grooming and stuff. It does happen. So, same to you, Jordan. What do you think of it?
Well, the gender one's one of the biggest ones I want to touch on. Okay, don't get me wrong, because again, I'm not sexist, homophobic, transphobic, or any of that. Okay, I'm really not. But one thing I'd say immediately, and I know some people are going to not be happy to hear me say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Good.
You get honest with me. You were a boy or you were a girl. I don't believe that you were non-binary, that you were gender fluid, that you were demi-gender, that you were an agender, that you were gender neutral. You were a male or a female. I can accept if you wish to convert, if you were actually willing to get the operations and that and the necessary medications to make you at least similar enough to a girl. If you're not willing to actually go down that path, then I'd argue you're not a girl in my eyes. You really ain't. You're a transvestite. You're just like a dressing girl. You're not a girl. If you're actually willing to get the operations, fair enough. I mean, I know 2 of my friends actually transgender. I have one that went from girl to boy, was a girl called Mia, then he became a boy, names himself Jason now, and there was a girl as well, forgot what her name was when she was a boy, but she's now Amy. So I have nothing against that, as long as they're actually willing to get the operations, and I do understand they take time to do. At younger ages like that, though, they shouldn't be telling them, what gender you are and that. And this problem is, there's parents that do it, and it will happen in education. there's parents, and I know there's some experience as well, who will generally push their children to be mixed genders alternatives because it's what they want. There's one lady, for example, I know, I'm not going to name names in this, but the story there, basically, she'll do anything for attention pretty much, and she's pushing down her daughter that's always been a bit of a tomboy. Well, I think you're more of a boy, really. I think you should start identifying as a boy. I'll start calling you this name and buy you boy clothes if you do. I'll buy you this and I'll buy you that. And that effectively is grooming in its own regard, in my opinion. It really is. You are pushing your agenda on a child because it's what you want for the attention, for the showcase of it. It's absolutely out of order. I believe in letting kids be kids. I mean, I admit that kids are going more and more sexualised at younger ages, mainly from what they're exposed to online, etc. And I can understand, so probably about year 5 area, with some of these sex ed classes, 10 years old area. I can accept, bits on that with the birds and the bees talk, the basics there. But the idea of gender where you are, I mean, there's someone I know is pansexual, and they're saying it's completely different to bi. And I finally got an explanation and understanding. The only difference is, well, they're attracted to, bi's just attracted to men and women, and pan, you're apparently attracted to men, women, and any gender. But there's only 2 genders, so you're bi. No, because there's more than 2 genders. The discussion went on for quite some time with them. I can tell you that. It wasn't a very fun one. But the point being, there is only 2 genders, and we do need to start acknowledging that correctly. It's become quite ludicrous and dangerous when we allow people to identify as whatever they want to do. It's absolutely unacceptable, and especially at such young ages. 10 areas the youngest to get them the basics of birds and the bees. But up to the ages of 3, 6 area, if they were generally pushing on children that age, it's absolutely disgusting. It's completely vile.
Well, from my point of view, you can identify as any gender that you want. That's fine. But you were born with a designated sex. You're either male or female. So a big issue of ours is protecting female spaces, So I decide I identify as a woman. Can I now go into the women's changing rooms? Because I won't be comfortable with that happening around my grandkids.
That's right.
No,
that's
a place for women. That's a place for women.
It's not just with places like that. With a lot of sports, for example, where you have men who identify as women, etc., who do compete, and there is biological differences between men and women that we do need to acknowledge. Of course, it's not fair on the women at all when you have male contestants competing. It's not sexist to say there is biological differences between both genders, some which men are naturally better at because of genetics, and some women are naturally better at because of genetics. It's not sexist to say, it is again facts, and I believe with sports and things such as that, it needs to be acknowledged as well. To ensure that it's properly protected and fair on women and men, of course.
Of course, yeah. But what I'm saying is, if we go down that road and we're going to say people have got the right to identify, a lot of people will genuinely identify, but it's open to abuse, isn't it? You've just left the door wide open to abuse, and anybody can start saying, "Well, I identify as a woman. I'm going into that female space."
I've already said that if I ever get arrested on a protest again, or I get sent to prison, I'm going to identify as soon as I get into the police station as a woman. As simple as that. But what I'm trying to say is, where you've got these kids are actually getting to choose their genders between 4 and 5. I was going off the subject there. Forgive me. The teachers have already been told. They've been told they don't have to tell their parents. So. Hello.
So who's got another guest that's come say? What do you think about this that's going on in schools with sex education?
Yeah, so basically the teachers have been told if the child is not getting the support of the family, the child can come into school and change their appearance. You know that, don't you?
I heard it on the grapevine. Yeah, I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Very true.
But again,
There's a question for me just come up on the comments, by the way, if you want me to answer that now.
Hang on a sec.
You can get it up on the screen possibly for people.
Yeah, I'll get it up now in a minute. PCP Wales, see, they're well, no, let's go back to that. Boris Johnson said, right, a male is born a male, a female is born a female. Okay? Our First Minister in Wales today, he turned around on the news and said a transgender woman is a woman, even though they were born a male. You're getting contradictions between Parliament and the Welsh Assembly regarding what sex are they a woman? Or are they not? A transgender woman, is that a woman or is that a man? Because a transgender woman is somebody who's a man who transgendered into a woman. Because our Welsh minister thinks he's a woman, even though it's never had an operation. Do you know what I mean? It's
the man. He refuses to have any type of operation. It's just a transvestite to me, which basically just means he'll dress up as a woman. If I could walk around and all that. I think I have a spare bra in it on the side in there. I'll put that. Don't ask why I have a bra in my house. I've got a spare bra. I'll put that on and go out and all that, and just I'll say I'm a woman now. It's not how it should be.
I'm just trying to read this.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with you. Don't get me wrong. If someone wants to dress as a woman and appear as a woman, and they want me to address them as a woman, if that's their choice, I ain't got a problem with that. But unless you've taken the plunge and had the operation, then I don't think your place is in those female spaces.
But you're still a man.
Yeah.
Regardless if you've had them chopped off or not, you're still a man. It's still part of your DNA. You're a male.
It's complicated when I can accept to an extent if they've had certain operations, but with sports and things like that, it can't be acceptable. I'd argue. I mean, it's very complicated after they've had full ops because there is medicines that can reduce certain levels to make you more feminine, etc. But there needs to be some sort of clear guidelines. Going on what you were saying before with the contradictions upon Parliament and upon ministers, there needs to be some very, very clear guidelines on what is what. But with the complete contradictions being made by the people who make these decisions on what is what, it makes it significantly more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, sex and gender are two very different issues, aren't they? I think we've all agreed on that.
Yeah, definitely. I did see a video today, actually, which is knocking about on its rounds around on the internet. It was an 11-year-old putting a condom onto a black dildo in a classroom, and that person didn't want to be involved in it, but they were forced to actually do it.
They should have no obligation to do so. I mean, I can live with the age thing, really, of course, because obviously it is becoming more and more at that age. I mean, I admit at around 10 area, I started to develop my puberty. I started around that age. So I can understand that, but if he doesn't wish to do so, they can't force him to do that.
It was a she.
No, she, sorry. She. My apologies.
And if I was her father, I would have been straight up out of school, and I know where I would have been ramming that dildo. I tell you that now. Even if it was happened to one of my grandkids who had just come into the age of that, 11, and if that was taught in the comprehensive school, I know where I'd be shoving it. I'll tell you that now.
Obviously, sex education is important, and sexual health is important, and children need to know that because they ain't all aware. No, I wouldn't have said so. I would have said around 13, perhaps, were more appropriate.
Yeah, considering that the legal age is 16, I don't think you should be talking to talking about it, 14, 15 maybe. Because a lot of kids, they develop at different stages as well. That's what you've got to remember. A lot of kids do.
Of course, and that's what makes it difficult.
Yeah.
But
I disagree a bit there, to be fair. I mean, I do think 10, 11 area is acceptable to educate them, but not force them to do anything they don't want. And all the blaming, learning them on what gender they are and that, I don't agree with that. But unfortunately, a lot of people are developing at that age. And a lot of people, majority of people, to be fair, in my school already lost their virginity before they was even 16. So it's something I do believe something should be education on, no matter what. A lot of people have done it before they're actually of legal age. I mean, I actually did at legal age. I was good. Only just. I was like 1 week after 16, but I was still legal. But a lot of people do it.
Jordan, let's get this right. 11-year-old putting a condom onto a dildo in a classroom with other people there, right? That is really, really bad in my eyes. You shouldn't be doing that at 11. You've got more important things to be learning in sex education than that. Learning that.
That directly, I don't agree with the dildo thing. No, there is certain education that should happen at that age, but nothing is. What's it called? Hands-on. Maybe that's not a good choice of words, but nothing as involved as that. And hands-on was a very bad choice of words, but I don't think there should be anything that direct. But some of the basics, I do believe, should be done by that age.
Some of the basics we're talking about 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds being taught safe sex. Now, do you know what they're actually going to be teaching in classrooms? What safe sex is all about?
8 and 9 is a little early for me again. I mean, I can live 10, 11 area to an extent because it seems to be the age the earlier ones develop, but 8 area now, that's too young still.
Because it's safe sex. Now, you can't possibly think that even 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they shouldn't be learning about anal sex.
Well,
when I was 10, I don't think at 10.
How is it safe sex? No sex is 100% safe. If you're involved in any sort of sexual activity, it comes with some risk. So it's ridiculous to say that anal sex is safe sex. Of course, it's not.
It's really, really not. That anal sex in general is something. Again, it's a little. When the first time when kids are starting to think about sex, you don't really start telling them about that. I mean, it's a lot. It's really too far. I agree where it goes too far. I will give you that. As I said, the very basics is understandable to an extent of why you feel the way you do when you get aroused, etc. And that. And that's around 10, 11 at the very earliest. But going to the point at that age of physically putting condoms on it and on a dildo of all things, it is too far. And anal sex at that age, that is absolutely no. It's absolutely not. I mean, if I was a parent and my child would be learning things like that at that young, I wouldn't allow my child to be participating in those classes. I'll give them sex education at home, the old-fashioned ways, of the old father's talk, effectively, as it's preferred to.
Yeah, you better answer that question, Jordan, quickly, because he keeps on putting the question up, like this Jeff Leon.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked before and all. I'll just try and not interrupt where we was at there. Very good question, Jeff. Sorry for your wait, so I'll hopefully give you a long enough answer to satisfy your needs, pun intended. Overall, the UK, of course, there is the argument of Brexit. That was the main thing we was known for, but we've always stood for more than that. The word independence in our name alone, a lot of people always thought it was about just leaving the EU, but it also was about personal independence, about independence from big government, individual freedoms, independence from the constant tax burdens upon the people, the shackles of political correctness and the restrictions on an already struggling working class. So we do stand for so much more than that. And there's policies we've had from day one that we do still campaign for. The scrapping of TV licences being a very popular policy of ours, one that Boris has promised and has still not delivered. Just wanted to point that out there. We've stood for scrapping prescription charges for years, proportional representation, which is a fantastic alternative to the current voting system that we'd argue with. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know PR, I'll put in simplified statistics. Let's say we had 3 constituencies, 10,000 people each constituency. Let's say 6,000 people in each constituency voted for Conservative. So that's 6, 12, 18. That's 18,000 people. All vote Conservative. So 6,000 each one. All 3 wards get a Conservative MP. Now, let's say the other 4,000 were Labour Party. We're going to use random parties here. So that's 4, 8, 12. That's 12,000 votes. Not a single MP would get elected for that, though. So that's 16,000 votes being worth 3 MPs, but 12,000 being worth none. So the political reform in the system would be a very big policy for UKIP, of course, as well. We do have other policies outside of that, with the freedom of speech, immigration, etc. But there's some of our most well-known ones that I've just addressed. And of course, you can see so many more of our policies over our website on the manifesto page of the website. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. If either of you got into Parliament as an MP, would you be willing to work with Kimberley Isherwood over the aspect of this sex education?
Yes.
Because she is actually running an organisation called PCP Wales. Basically, there's 5,000 parents who are going to the High Court. Basically, the Welsh Government are getting taken to court regarding this new sex education, because in England you can opt out, in Wales you can't. But it's pointless. The opt-out is a pointless exercise because it's incorporated within all lessons. You're thinking sex education is sex education. It's not. It's been incorporated in all lessons, like geography. Just for an example, the LGBTQ flag is now a proper flag, and it'll be taught in geography. Do you mean? And then it goes on from there.
To be honest, I will work and collaborate with anyone on any issue of the day which we see eye to eye on. I mean, there's a few things that Jordan and I have spoke about and we agree on. There'll be other things that we disagree on.
Yeah.
In that instance, when we're agreeing and when we're working towards a common cause, I'd be happy to help someone like Jordan or Kimberley with with the Welsh sex education thing, of course.
With the lady mentioned, I'd like to say as well, I'd be happy to wear, same as you, you've hit the nail on the head. There's areas you're going to agree with everyone and there's areas you're going to disagree. You've said it perfectly. But the way, it's important, especially if elected, to work with the people, especially the people that have elected you. I mean, if I win in Wakefield or if I won in the local elections when I stood, I'd still work with all the people that voted against me. It's the way we do. And there was a sex education. I am familiar with her movement already. I worked with a team. I'm sure a lot of people here already know about Children Matter News, with Katie, etc. I am a member of their team still. Still got me on the website. I've even got one of the cups right here. Good thing I left this out before from this morning's brew. So it's good.
I think I'm still a member.
So I am a member. Pardon?
Yeah, I think I'm still a member. I'm not sure if I'm still on their website, but
I still work with them. I mean, they don't really do. They're not as popular as they once was, but they are still a good movement to be part of. So safeguarding children would be a big matter I want to stand by and work with groups that help protecting children from potentially dangerous things, such as some of the things that's been forced on them at a young age. Absolutely, would be happy to work with people to prevent that.
Yeah, I have to give Kim a mention, really, because for the last 18 months, she's had a bit of a rough time. She was very ill. She's got a family to bring up. She also was doing a master's degree. She's actually qualified. She's now got a master's as a criminologist. And also, she was running the PCP organisation. And I've known Kim only 2 years or something, and she was that close to death, and she still fought through it. And I believe in Kim, and I believe in what she's actually doing regarding the sex education. She's not on about getting rid of sex education. She's on about changing the policies, because
making it sensible.
Yeah.
I'm in favour of that.
Responsible sex education. But this is it. I think the days of this pantomime politics, where we contradict each other just for the sake of it, people are sick of that. They don't want that, and it's not. What has it produced? What has it produced? Nothing. We need to be doing this. We need to work together when we've got a common cause. And don't get me wrong, if I disagree with you, you'll know about it. I'll let you know. But
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I think we should. By the way, before we forget, Jeff asked a question before regarding Boris. Might be an idea for his answer in a bit. Just don't like leaving people waiting when they ask us questions, of course. You can get his question up.
Yeah, I've got it.
There we go. You want to answer this one first, seeing as I answered his last one first.
So, Mick, a question for you both. It's should Boris resign after Monday's events?
Absolutely not. No, he should have resigned about a year ago.
I like that answer.
Simple as that.
Well, I'm gonna put an answer to that. I think Boris should have resigned after the first day he got when he got re-elected, because he didn't give us Brexit. That's my view on it. He should have been sacked there on the spot.
I've personally, it's after the results. To be fair, it's my most terrifying fear is who's going to take his place. I think someone said it in the comments as well. I'm not mistaken. I'm sure someone did. I think it's Betty. I'm not mistaken, or someone. I'll have a look in a second, but I know someone did, and it's the scariest thing is who will take his. Yeah, Betty. It was who will take his place. It's a terrifying thing. It might be someone remotely useful, or it might end up being a Boris 2.0. But one thing I can definitely tell you is that I feel in the next general election, we are going to have a Labour government due to Boris's failures. People will vote Labour out of protest, and Labour are not going to be any better. I think it's time for the smaller parties to get that recognition. From my party over in UKIP, Reform, even the Freedom Alliance, the smaller parties do need to certainly get that vote in this election. Because the more we get voting the same and voting for whatever's the best of two evils, the more things remain the same. We need to break the two-party system. It's similar to when I was talking about the voting system at the moment, the past-the-post system. It does not work. I am in favour of proportional representation, because that way the percentage goes on votes for that party by percentage instead of the amount in the direct area. So I believe the most important thing to remember and encourage is for people to vote for the smaller parties when general elections come. Because both Labour and Conservative are as bad as each other, but Labour will more than likely win as a result of the protest vote due to Boris being a complete and utter failure. Boris, I generally had faith in him when he first got elected. I had faith. I really did. And he has become one of the biggest letdowns imaginable. I am extremely disappointed. I know he probably isn't bothering watching, but Boris, you're watching this, I'm disappointed in you. I can't put that straight enough.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's just flip-flopping from Tory to Labour, as it's always done. And all we get is they get into power and say, well, look, they did rubbish. And they seem to use that as an excuse for their forthcoming failures. Yeah, but they did really bad before, so now we've got carte blanche to do really bad now. And it's got to come to an end. One of the things that we say is it's time to put the common back in the House of Commons, because those people are so out of touch with the man in the street. They're so out of touch. They haven't got a clue.
Yeah, I've said that, Mick, from the beginning. The House of Commons is meant to be for the common people running the country. It's not meant to be the elite. That's what the House of Lords are. Hang on a minute. We've got Kimberley here. She's late on.
Oh, Oh, she's only an hour and 4 minutes late. She's not that late.
Early for her.
Hello, Kim.
I can't put my
Hello.
camera on. I've had a family crisis. I can't put my camera on, and I've just looked now, and I could see you were still on, so I thought I'll jump on for 2 minutes.
Oh, it's all right. We understand.
My face, I'm not showing my face, but I just knew Phil would come off. Yeah, he's going to phone me kicking off, but I've got a really good excuse. Obviously, when I'm not going to wear.
No, you've got to show your face. I mean, the people have had to look at me for the last hour. They've been waiting for you. Come on.
Ah, no, you're all right.
No.
How are you doing? What have I missed?
Well,
Everything.
we've
I'll let
talked
you
about,
fill it in.
yeah, we've talked about almost everything, Kim. We spent about 20 minutes talking about sex education, about the education in schools, and that's your forte. And how you're taking the Welsh Government to court.
I know. It's going mad, yeah, nice. Well, we should be getting far more exposure than this, really. You know, it's not just us taking the Welsh Government to court, it's us fighting an agenda that landed in the UK in 2017. So it's just trying to make a dent in that, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You're saying you've actually have made headway as far as the media are concerned. You've ended up on Jeremy Vine's show. You've BBC4. You're in national newspapers. You've been on Wales Online today. You are making roads there to highlight the issue which is happening in our schools.
Well, yes, getting to the point now where they can no longer deny it. You know, the government hasn't done themselves any favors because we, as you know, we fought this fight. We've gone on the right channels to exchange emails. We attempted to exchange emails. Took part in the petition process, the consultation process. We've got evidence where the government has misled the public intentionally, and all that is starting to backfire now, and people are reading this for themselves. So I think it's gotten to the point where the situation is becoming unavoidable, you know, especially here in Wales. A lot of the parents didn't even know this was going on. So yeah, it's concerning. It's massively concerning, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
I have asked the two candidates who stand in Wakefield, Kim, if either of them gets in as an MP, would they work for you? Both of them have said yes. So you at least you'll have somebody in Parliament who's backing you.
Well, this is it. The Parliament seem to be flip-flopping on the situation. So, but the fact that Parliament are flip-flopping on it now is putting us in danger because, as you know, we've got the Welsh Government here, we've got the Conservatives there. The Conservatives are now flip-flopping on all these contracts they've signed and stuff like that. They are trying to play good cop. We've got Drakeford here trying to make out that they are bad cops. So he's got his foot on the gas, really, and our kids are the ones that's going to get burned.
Hi, Kim. Right. I was just going to say, I wish you every success with what you're doing. You've got my full support with that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing short of grooming. It's completely inappropriate and it needs to be stopped, and it needs to be stopped now.
Yeah, totally. We shouldn't have even gotten this far, you know. They know what they're up to. Look, there is an agenda to play here, and we can deny it as much as we want, or we can ignore it as much as we want. Investments are being made, you know, our children are at risk. And like I've spoken to our legal team tonight briefly, and like I've said to them, this is no longer a preventative approach now. It's damage limitation. Children are being subjected to this on a daily basis, on a mass scale. So this is very much a damage limitation campaign now at UK wide, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
It goes beyond the education thing, though, doesn't it? I mean, I think some children are getting psychologically damaged. You know, when you've got little girls that aren't even into double figures, and they're talking about wanting the lips done. What's all that about? This is broader than education. This is society pumping this, isn't it?
Well, it's all industry, isn't it? It's industry, the cosmetic industry, the well, even the sex industry. You know, it's all kids are on social media far too young as well. What I find is every Christmas the parents are in competition to buy their kids the latest gadgets. So we're all guilty in this, aren't we? You know, we've all got a part to play in this, and we've taken our eye off the ball. We've exposed the children to too much, and children always aspire to be like the adults. So I think it's just a demonstration of our insecurities as a nation more than anything.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I say, we know about the education system and how we all feel about that, but I think we also have a social responsibility, as parents and as a society to
absolutely. I have
realise what we're doing here.
Yeah, I have a friend, right? She is absolutely beautiful, natural beauty. She works in mental health, and so to me, she should know better than anyone. And she does not post pictures on social media without a filter. And I'm thinking, well, if you know, when we got beautiful women like you, and I want to engage in their posts because I believe the women like that, they should be, you know, this is what the girls should look up to. Somebody that's not just good in their looks, but good in their ways, good in their actions, healthy, you know. And if as adults are using filters and competing, then obviously the children are going to, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. So you're standing, Kim, aren't you? You're standing as a councillor, a candidate, isn't he, for the council?
Yeah, Talbot.
So when is the council election?
23rd of June.
So that is before the by-election, is that right?
I don't know.
Mick, when's the by-election?
Sorry, 23rd of June, yeah.
Yeah, so you're all standing on the same day then?
Yeah.
So that'll be
I
quite
haven't got much chance. I haven't, though. It's sure, everyone who failed in the council election on the 5th of May, they're all going for this seat now. So and I haven't got much chance. Anyways, it's a Labour stronghold, but it's a campaign opportunity, and I need to show them that I'm not scared of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, there was one other question that somebody put up. I can remember the bones of it. Basically, this is to Mick and Jordan. Would you ever consider, as a smaller party, joining parties for the next general election? Because you're more likely to get in if all the smaller parties join together.
You mean like a merger of the parties?
Yeah. It would make more sense.
It would mainly depend. This is the problem. A lot of smaller parties are so separated because of smaller differences. I mean, for example, Reform, very similar to UKIP on their own accord, just actually lack a lot of policies where UKIP does fulfil. Reclaim, again, a lot of the freedom of speech ideas are similar to that of UKIP. For Britain, even to an extent, but they go a lot. For Britain, go a lot further with what they say to a point where it's personally a bit off. And one or two key differences cause these small parties not to merge. And the big concerns, I think, with all these small parties is who runs it, and it's an unfortunate thing, which is often considered to membership. So it'd mainly be up to our parties more than anything what they'd merge with. But in terms of actually working with the gentleman on call with me, I'd be happy to do so. I'd be happy to work with him if I get elected. I'm sure I could certainly work with him, and if he got elected, I'm hoping he'd allow me the honour to work under him to try and improve the area and campaign for what we believe in.
Yeah, I mean, a merge of parties. I think that would be a long way off. I think there's certainly room for cooperation because we do seem to share some common ground. But then we come to what we consider big issues at Freedom Alliance. I mean, I know that UKIP support NATO and the UN, but where do you stand on like the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, a lot of that. We are quite national. I'd describe us as a national libertarian party. We do put our own country first. We don't have much faith in a lot of what the UN, etc., does have to offer. Same with the World Health Organization. We don't believe they're much use. I mean, the UN being a big example. The UN, no offence, every time they send forces to help anything, these peacekeepers effectively all they do is stand there and look pretty. They don't do a good job at that. They're not really much use to UN and a lot of organisations like that. We believe we're not an interventionist party, and we don't like to get involved with a lot of things like that. Overall, that are outside of it. Other than we do believe in commitment to NATO, but we also don't believe in getting involved in every single foreign war that exists. More or less, we're not in favour of that. So it's one of those where we're not really involved much in treaties and organisations like that. We don't really want much to do with them.
Kim, what are your thoughts on the WHO?
Well, I'm actually fighting to regain control of my children's education from them. I think they're an absolute disgrace. I think they got no place in this country. They're unelected, overfunded, underqualified. That's just mainstream. Don't mean to talk about other stuff. No, I've got, well, as you know, the sex education comes from them. So I'm not going to have a good word to say about them. I think, like I said, they're overworked, underqualified, overpaid, underqualified. They got too much say. And to be honest with you, I'd like to meet the people who's writing these sex education documents, and then I'll give them my honest opinion.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, I'm actually going to close the show now because it's over an hour now, folks. So
and Phil wants to know the reason why I was late. He's dying.
No.
I was late. Phil,
no, Kim.
Phil No News wants to phone me to find out some news. That's what's going on.
Kim, my stress ball.
I'll do a sponsored silence next time. I'll do a sponsored silence next time, Phil. No problem.
Well, lucky I got Lashir on next week because you've got a protest next. You've got a rally outside the Senate next week, haven't you?
Yeah, 1 o'clock. But it'll be a late start because we're going to be. I will be over the train station meeting the other demo. But yeah, from about 1 o'clock we meet. We'll start about 1:45, 2 o'clock, and get some awareness raised and raise some funds as well.
And Mick, have you got any protests for the Freedom Alliance organised? Any rallies in the next couple of weeks?
I've got certainly not any protests. No, we're out campaigning. We're out campaigning every weekend, of course.
Yeah.
Around Wakefield, Ossett, Horbury. We'll be out doing the door-to-door canvassing. I ain't got time to be protesting right now.
I know there's a few things going on in London at the end of the month, but that'll be after your election, I think. And what about you, Jordan? Are you going to be out campaigning in Wakefield?
This Saturday and Sunday I'll be in Wakefield, yes, campaigning from Saturday 11 till probably about, whenever I get the train back, really. There's no set time for stopping. And Sunday I was starting at 12. You've got to do a little later on Sunday, especially with training on Sundays. But I will be campaigning mainly around the town centre area, and I do definitely want to do quite a lot in the Lupset ward. That area's been quite neglected in Wakefield. I might not live Wakefield myself, but I do visit it. I have been through countless times and all that. I am familiar with the area quite well. Especially the Wetherspoons there. I have spent a lot of time there, I'll tell you that. So I'll be doing that for this weekend, and I'll also be in August. It is the next protest I'll be at. But there's a protest
Manchester
about the group. Exactly. Someone in the comments might do. If John's still here, he'll probably know it because it's in the Patriotic Diary group on Facebook.
Yeah, it's in August. It's for the children. That demo is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be at that.
So what made you to stand in Wakefield then? How far away is it from where you live?
I don't know the exact amount of miles, but probably on a train, looking about an hour 50 minutes, I'd guess. Off the top of my head, depending on what train. It's quite a decent distance, I won't deny. I've never claimed not to be in the area. That's why I put my full address on the ballot paper. I believe complete honesty. I might not live in the area, but this is a perfect opportunity for the people of Wakefield to elect effectively what I'd argue a true public servant, not another politician. I do everything I can for my local area. If I get elected as the Wakefield MP, you'll no joke see me on the streets litter picking and everything. Christmas, I'll be walking around as Santa Claus. Like I do that over here already. I'll be doing it there as well. I go on the train like that, handing out presents to the homeless like I do here every year. I really do want a grassroots approach, and as an MP, I would deliver that. I believe if I get in the area, it's a chance to Wakefield to get a true public servant. And so I've decided to put my hat in the ring here and give the people of Wakefield a chance to vote for an alternative, to kick out the complete sleaze that is the Conservative Party. For the love of God, hopefully not elect one of those Labour Party lot, for they're not going to do anything better themselves. I think this is just a perfect opportunity for them, and I do believe if I get elected, I can really change Wakefield for the better.
And Mick, your words on that? Your last words?
I'm born and bred. It's my town. I've lived here all my life, and I love it. And I do want to change it because we've had Labour in here for decades, and I've watched it go down the pan. The Tories took over for a short period of time, and look what happened there. They're cutting funding to Wakefield Council all the time. It's time for change. I think it's time for a normal working class local lad to grab it by the scruff of the neck and say, "This is my town. I'm not accepting that anymore."
And you, Kim, why should they be voting in for Talbot for you?
Well, simple for me, NFL. I'm literally the underdog in the viper's nest, and every single person, even those in opposition, is one thing I stand for that no one else does, and that's the children. I am the children's voice. I'm always the children's voice. I'm not going to pretend to care about politics or anything else, but no matter where I am or what I'm doing, I give it 110%. You know, even working in a shop, the floor's never been so clean. So I feel the children got no voice at all, and I am putting myself forward to take responsibility for our children. There's no two ways. There's nothing else I can add to that. You know what I mean? And there's nothing anyone can take away from me in that sense. I am the children's voice. I've had the guts full that they are underrepresented. Nobody cares about them until they vote in age, and it's time that changed. And they don't want me in there because they know if I get in there, they're going to have to work. So they're going to try everything in their power to keep me out.
Yeah, nice one. I'm going to say thank you to all three of you for jumping on tonight. Also,
thank you very much for having me on. I'd like to say as well, good luck to everybody on the campaigns, by the way. I just wanted to say that, obviously, my opponents here, I wish everybody the best and all. I mean, and trust me, I'd rather you go in than Labour if I had to choose whether or the Conservatives. So even though we're competing, I'd like to say best of luck to you. And of course, is it Kim? Sorry, I'm horrible with names. Is it Kim? Yeah. Best of luck to you as well. I'm sure you'll do us all proud.
Thank you. Like I said, I won't get in. I'm literally the underdog in the viper's nest. But I'm not scared. I haven't got no money on my side. I've just got honesty, commitment, and courage. And if that was worth anything, I'd get in tomorrow. But we know the system we're up against, lads, and we'd be fooling ourselves if we thought any different, you know. But we try in, and nobody can take that away from us. So best of luck to you both as well.
Yeah, good luck, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you all.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on, and best of luck for the 23rd. Thank you very much. great guests tonight, amazing folks. I mean, a little mini hustings, you could call it. People standing in the same election as well. So it's quite interesting seeing other people's views, which is pretty awesome, to be honest with you, folks. What can I say? I wish them all the best, and I'd like to thank everybody for watching. If you continue sharing, it'd be amazing. And I'll be back again next week. And next week I've got Lucia coming on, because obviously PCP Wales have got something on in Cardiff on Saturday outside the Senedd. There is a freedom protest going on that day as well by the train station, and they're hoping to meet up with each other, so get all the numbers up. So that should be awesome. That should be as well, folks. Yeah, it's been an interesting show tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Some really good answers to questions, and hopefully you vote for these people, because these people need you backing, folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodnight now. I'm going to play one of my usual ones to finish the night off, and I'll all see you next week. Oh, by the way, I will be putting out a live or a pre-recorded show on Friday morning or Friday afternoon, and that will be about the demonstration which is in London on Saturday. I'll be speaking to one of the organisers and doing a pre-recorded show. I can't personally do the show on Friday because I'm going to a funeral, but it will be pre-recorded tomorrow, folks. So I'll be putting it out on Friday sometime. So yeah, folks, good night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. And thanks to the awesome admin as ever. Thank you.
As you see, they've got a net on the floor.
Okay, picking it up here in Wilmington, North Carolina, right at the Intercoastal. We're in one of these bands.
So that's my site, Dell, in Wilmington, North Carolina. But as he races and fights to win Friday, check out the two guys who seem to walk right by him in the background there with no trouble at all. The video has been shared more than 1 million times on social media. Now it's the
Cruising, losing, looking for some news, and losing is amusing. Other people choosing the topics I can view, and the subjects I can chew on, the facts that I can spew, and the news they put their slew on. Twisty, turny, wriggly, wormy, squealy, squirmy news. Psychopathic journalists deceiving with their views, tightening like a tourniquet, they're aiming to confuse. Nightly negative narratives narrating you the blues. Blues and twos, new taboos, the pastor's all sold out. The hurricanes incoming and the world is dying out. Asteroids, blasteroids, steroids in their tails. The windiest ever windy gales are blowing in the dales. The sea levels are rising at a super duper rate. 247 365, the caliphate's your fate. Tidal waves are waving like the death rays from the sun. Duck and cover, stand your ground, there's nowhere else to run.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing, and indeed it has. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy.
Writing, fighting, to publish stuff exciting. Losing is amusing, other people choosing the posts that I can post and the documents I can read from, the info I can feed from, the facts the checkers get wrong. Sleazy, slimy, geeky, grimy, blackout, soulless tech, concluding with a clickety-click what's wrong and what's correct. Politically encouraged with protection from the law. They're getting pretty ruthless now, they're panicking for sure. Scrubbing out the info like a scrubber in a tub, deleting the derogatory of the members in their club. Documents and studies disappear without a trace. Psychopathic moralists, they're doing it in your face. The info is erasing at a super duper rate. Breach community standards, your account will feel a fate. Post a funny meme means that you hate and are extreme. No chance of an appeal cause you're white and so supreme. Doctors, nurses, scientists and servants, real boys made from wood, covering for the perverts, defining definitions that will put you in a spin. Anything of interest gets filed in recycled bin. Algorithms algorizing the content that you post, collecting information, long-term storage with a host. Five Eyes keeping eyes on you, they're eyeing up your speech, using legal loopholes to conduct a data breach. Unqualified assessors banning stuff they do not like. Since early 2020 this has reached a massive spike. You're swimming in a dirty swamp, the swamp is full of pike. Post a touchy subject and receive a community strike. Unelected unofficials making up the rules. $1 billion corporations governing the schools. Satanic worship dictators